going?
It's going.
Okay. Hi. Thank you for doing it with me. So tell me a little bit about you. How old are you?
So I'm turning 23 this Thursday. So,
Oh, happy birthday!
Thank you. So
That's exciting.
23.
And did you grow up in Northern California?
Yes, I was born and raised in Yuba City, California.
So we've been talking together about generational differences. What's your particular observation? How do you see the difference between yours and your parents' and your grandparents' generation?
Well, I think, and I don't think it's just this specific generation where there's a disconnect, specifically in how we treat each other and how we view each other. I think it's part of history that the newest generation will always have a disconnect with the previous generation, and with the current one, I really think that there is just a lack of communication of of ideas and of viewpoints and of change too. So I think it's not, for me as just an observer, I don't think it's it's really unique of what's going on, of the difference that's happening. That
so you think there's more disconnect today than there has been in the past?
I think that's always been there, honestly. I think the oldest generation is always going to look at the new generation as like crazy and out there, and so I feel like that's always happened, and and maybe we don't see it because maybe it's a span of like 50 years or 20 years, so we don't really see that immediate difference. So for me, I think it's natural, and it's been a part of history for a long time.
So you don't think that this generation is more tolerant of diversity and more concerned about social responsibility?
Yeah, I do think so. That is one difference of it, that's for sure. And maybe we get to see that more because of the rise of globalization and the rise of internet, the rise of advances in communication and technology, and especially transportation also. So I think because of the rise of communication and transportation, we're able to connect more, create this global village, like I think Marshall McLuhan. Mm-hmm. Marshall McLuhan's global village. So I really do believe that too. So I think that's why, to this generation, that's what our difference is,
Critics say that they're more narcissistic, more selfish, more self-centered. They want to be famous and have 100,000 followers. And what do you think about that charge?
I think they're missing a big part of it. Maybe that's what it seems like on the surface, but I think if we don't deny that exactly, like what if that element is there? What if that notion is there? But what if that's not the only thing that's going on? I feel like with that, of being able to be seen by a lot of people and have a lot of followers, is also an undertone of being able to create change and be able to affect people's lives. And so I don't think it's just one or the other, being completely altruistic or being completely egotistical. I think there can be a balance and a mix of the both, and yeah.
It also occurs to me that being self-confident and being okay to be in the limelight helps create change.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're a little wild, wallflower in the corner, you're not going to be.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and if people are just judging it by you just want the limelight, but there's so much more to that, I think.
Great. So, do you think of yourself as a feminist?
Yes, I do.
Why? Because a lot of people say, I'm not a feminist, I don't hate men, I'm not a bra burner.
No, I think there's a really, through my studies, I've realized that there's a big misconception of what feminism is, and people see it as this singular group, this singular ideology, and I don't think people realize that it is a type of ideology, but it's been composed of different types of group over history, and it's been in waves, and so it's not just this one particular just say, for example, Democrats or Republicans, of this specific group. But so for me, I do see myself as a feminist, but I don't know particularly what type of feminist. I don't think I have a label of what type of feminist I am. I just know that I am. And so trying to relay that to people that don't have that realization of what feminism is, it's a bit hard, because then you get immediately labeled as like, oh, you must hate men, and oh, you must be, and then and I think what makes it funnier and more interesting is that because of my sexuality, like, oh, you're a lesbian, of course you're a feminist, it's like, no, that has nothing to do with the fact that I, believe in feminist values and ideologies, so for me it has been a bit rough to always put myself forward as a feminist. I've sometimes have had to hold myself back from saying, like, I'm a feminist, sometimes I've been having just to say, like, no, so I have been guilty of saying that sometimes, because I know the negative connotation behind the word feminist.
Do you hold back, like, in a family gathering or in a school, or where might you feel pressure not to be out as a feminist?
Yeah, really, it depends on the type of people, not specifically different types of circles, social circles, but the type of people. If I see that they're talking about, feminazis, if they're using that word, oh, it's like, for me, when somebody brings up the word feminazi, it's like, how can you equate,
equality for women with killing Jews?
Yeah.
Hello.
Exactly, yeah. And so for those types of people, I have to give them a different lens, and because they're already blindsided, they already have a limited bias of what feminism is. And so then I try to, when I speak to them about it, I give them the ideas of it, and for them to talk about it without labels. That way they're not immediately putting on these lenses of feminism.
Right.
So then, as we're talking about it, then I bring to them different viewpoints where they can say, like, oh yeah, that makes sense, and I'm like, yeah, that's kind of what feminism is about, so I kind of, so really I always just assess the situation and the particular person that I'm talking to. So
when people say in the past, are you a feminist, I say, of course. Aren't you? Don't you believe in equality between men and women? I just keep it really simple. What can you say to that?
That's true.
No, I don't believe in equality. Growing up in a Mexican-American family, right? What kind of influences were that? Because in traditional Mexican-American families, there was an emphasis to stay home. Girls should be really kind of protected, and you shouldn't go out without an older person kind of chaperoning. I'm sure that's changed, but how have you been shaped by being a Chicana?
Man, yeah, definitely being the youngest and having an older brother, and for me it was really contradicting a lot of times. My parents, they never had the traditional role of what people think Mexican couples do, and they're immigrants, and so my dad, I'm not sure if there's a lot more Mexicans like him, or and so there's this false stereotype, but my parents have never had those sex specific roles of the man working and the women are supposed to be cooking and cleaning. They've always had a partnership and always worked together. Since they got here, they always had jobs together, 2 jobs at the same time, so they would split up, childcare. My dad would get us ready for school in the morning, do my pigtails, and, so he wasn't, just like, oh, I'm a macho man, I can't do the childcare stuff, I can't cook for you guys. Like, no, we were really experienced to having both love and affection from both parents, being supported by both parents. But then at the same time, on the other side of it, they did treat my brother differently. My brother was allowed to go out all the time without chaperones and everything, and with us, we weren't allowed to go to dances, and if we would go to dances, we would have to be home by 10, or they would pick us up by 10, and, and with me,
Do you have another sister?
I do. I have 2 older sisters, and they got it worse than me. I think, and it's, the birth order, I feel. So I think by the time with me, and I was the only one that was that was born here. So I feel like that had a lot of difference too of how I was socialized. But with me, I would resist a lot of that. I would stay out later, and then they would get mad at me, but I wouldn't let that, like, I would tell them, like, look, I'm still responsible, I'm getting good grades, and I'm involved with all of these things, and, I don't like doing this. I would be open to them about what I would be doing. So I was able to have a really open communication with my parents, which led for me to experience my individualism more and my independence more. So
interesting.
A lot more different than with my sisters and then with my brother too.
What was it like coming out as a lesbian to your family?
I still haven't been able to really come out to my parents yet, which has been hard. And it's so funny that lately I feel like my parents know, and they've talked to my siblings about it because they're the first people that I came out to. So my siblings have known, for quite some time, and my parents, they've talked to each other about, like, oh, I think God was going to come out to us, so just get prepared, and, just like that. And I think lately also my dad has been hinting, has been saying, like, we karaoke a lot together, and so I show them some of my favorite songs, and so sometimes when they know that it's that type of, that song that calls to a person that's going through, a realization or, anything like that. My dad always asks me, so why is that song important to you? Or, so, and I feel like he always gives me the opportunity to do it, but I always, it's me now, I know my parents are ready for it probably, but it's now just me, getting the courage to do it, honestly. So yeah, that was my experience with it, and I'm still going through it right now.
Yeah.
And what I've realized is that we don't just come out in one point in time in our lives. We come out, like, constantly in different ways and in different, in different stages in our life. So
do you want to have kids?
No, honestly, I don't. A lot of people, are trying to convince me I should, and it's something so much more a part of just being gay. I think
it's part of being a large family. A lot of people I know who had a lot of siblings is like,
oh, really?
No.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I can't wait for my siblings to have kids and for me to take care of them. It's just, for me, I've seen I see how cruel this world can be, even though I am pretty optimistic about everything. It's just, there's just so many dangers and so much responsibility. You're creating a new life, and nobody gives you a handbook how to be a parent. And so, for me, that's just a lot of responsibility, and I don't know if I can take that on. So, and a lot of family things too. Just a lot of family history that's so dark, and just, I don't know. I don't know if I would like to bring a child into this world with all of that.
It'll probably depend on if you have a partner and what she wants.
Yeah,
whatever.
That's what has to do with it too. We sometimes can't envision a family if we don't have that person, to see that with. So right now I don't really see it.
I just read a book about English Gen X teens, and they were really pessimistic about the future, about the economy, about the corrupt government, and they really didn't have very much hope. So I wanted to ask you if you're optimistic or pessimistic about the future.
I feel like my opinion and my thoughts change constantly. I think I'm still in the process of figuring out what I think about it. I see a lot of people's, opinion that, like, oh, it's going to the shit, or there's possibility for growth. And for me, I see, like, yeah, it can be, and yeah, there's a possibility it could be. So for me, it's really like either way could be true, but really it depends on the current generation and how we're going to get through it. I don't think there's just because of what's going on now, doesn't mean that it's destined to go that path. People can make the change, and so it's on the people and not really just because of one certain thing that's going on at the time. So for me, it's really, it could go either way.
That's
we really
true.
don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
What do you hear your peers at the university talking about the political campaign? Do they like Donald Trump? Do they like Bernie Sanders? Do they like Hillary Clinton? What are you hearing?
I hear a lot of people hating Trump. which gives me a lot of hope, but then I look on media outlets and there is a lot of supporters for him, which makes me really sad. And so, but on campus, I do hear a lot of against Trump, and then a lot of people love Sanders, which I love. So, yeah, that's what I've been hearing, you know.
Well, you probably don't run in redneck circles anyway.
It's so funny because I was driving in Yuba City, and there was a guy with a sticker, a Trump sticker on his car. And I was like, "What? Where am I?" Like, it gave me a reality check that these ideas do spread, and that's scary to me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Last question is what would you like people to know about your generation that you think they don't know, that they don't get?
That's a good question. Yeah, I don't know how to answer that one, honestly. I feel like I still have a lot more to learn and to observe and to connect with my own generation that right now I'm not sure. I mean, you brought up the altruistic sense, and I feel that heavily within myself, and I can't generalize and say that everybody feels that way, but with the lens that I've had throughout my life, I think people should realize that maybe people like me do have more of a focus of being there for others and making a good impact in the world, and not just for our selfish reasons. So I don't know, just finding more connections, that we are more similar than we think. You know, I feel like my parents probably see me so different from them, but I am a product of them. We forget that we are a product of our past generations, and so there must be some, more similarities than we think. So it's just finding that disconnect and just closing the gaps. So I guess that's
Great.
what I would say.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
Your parents probably don't have purple hair, huh?
No, they hate my hair. They miss my long blonde, brown hair. Oh,